We have a guest in the studio. Mark Bichachi is a communication strategist, and we're also waiting for another one. He is Daniel Kibet, Director of Data Analytics at UDA Party. Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show again.
Thanks for having me. It's been a minute.
It has. Are you well?
Much better.
Very good.
Than what?
Than I was a while back, of course.
Now you're okay?
Yes, yes.
Now you're fine?
Yes.
Initially you were...
I was iffy.
Usijali bwana. Usijali. Hali ya maisha hii.
We must overcome.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed. City?
Yes.
Please give Mark the day's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Malawi. Now this is today's proverb. And I read, the body pays for a slip of the foot, and gold pays for a slip of the tongue.
The body pays for a slip of the foot.
Yes, gold.
And gold pays
for a
slip
slip of the
tongue.
Yes.
This one. Do you get what the Malawians are saying here, Mark?
They're basically saying that the consequences of loose lips is that ships sink.
Oh, well put. Gold.
Okay.
Goldie.
Okay. Ni sawa. Kama ndivyo umesema ni sawa. If that's the interpretation, that's fine. All right, that's okay. That's okay. Our other guest joins us in the studio, Daniel Kibet, Director of Data Analytics at UDA. Daniel, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the hot seats.
I'm glad to be here.
How is the party?
Not bad. You're doing well.
You're doing data analytics.
Yes.
What does that mean? But
basically, what we do is we are the ones who run numbers behind the scenes. So there's a department within the party known as the command center. So the command center is where everything comes in. Whatever you see in the screens, whatever the president says is based on what we have gathered across the country. In terms of numbers, we analyze, we do popularity results for different counties, for different constituencies. We analyze and see also results. We check on what our MPs currently are doing. Currently what we are doing is we check what our MPs are currently doing, see their popularity rating, are they delivering the manifesto. During election, what we used to do social targeting, whereby we can look at you, we narrow down to you as a person. Are you able to vote on us based on particular data that you have on your personal data? Yeah.
why? So at present, what have you been doing since the president is in office? Your members are in parliament and in counties. What have you been doing? What kind of data are you gathering?
We're just gathering what currently we are supposed to do a popularity rating on our president, on our government. We're also doing for our ministers, also doing for our MPs or MCAs. Since they got into office, are the people liking them? Are they going to what they promised during election? So basically, we are doing popularity rating.
Okay.
Yes.
Has it changed, the popularity of Kenya Kwanza leaders? Let's start with MCAs, MPs.
Agent provocateur.
Are they
Yes,
more?
for sure. For sure it has changed. For sure it has changed. We got into power when things are not that good. So Kenyans' expectation vis-a-vis what we promised, we've been able to deliver 50-50. Some we have been able to deliver, some we have not, because we really didn't understand the current the situation of our country at that time. So right now what we are doing is facing reality. So our popularity has gone down, but not that bad. So what we are trying to do is now give advisory messages.
Why is it
to the
at right
government.
now?
Basically, the economic situation. We had promised to lower a lot of things from unga, petrol, do employment, construction of things. But we got into power when we don't have budget, number one, we don't have resources. So, and then there was famine, which affected a lot of agriculture issues. In terms of employment, we also don't have resources to employ. We are struggling with our budget. So a lot of things we are juggling around. Yeah.
So that has affected the popularity of the party.
Yeah.
What's the public sentiment, coming now specifically to our topic today, what's the public sentiment on the finance bill? What does it tell you?
The public, number one, I think we have not done a lot of sensitization on the financial bill. So what even we advise the government, the executive, is we need to do a lot of sensitization. The housing, for example, levy, which is the most controversial, but it's not really the most controversial, is it didn't start this time. It started way earlier in the year 2018, 2017, when the second term of Uhuru Kenyatta. So it was just a matter of who is ready to make that solid decision. So us as Kenya Kwanza, what we're trying to do is to make that solid decision. You know, we have a lot of population who are living in the slum areas, in the deplorable areas. So as much as we're promising, and part of our promises was to give quality life to all our Kenyans. We have about 7 million people who are living in slums. So we cannot get into power when we already have 7 million and get out of power when also we have 7 million more. So we needed to make that solid decision of improving their lifestyle. How can we do that? Is that fund. Why the fund? I know people always ask why the fund. Affordable housing is done on a PPP level. And PPP is public-private partnership. So any investor is a businessman. So when he's coming to us and the government, when he wants to construct houses, he needs a sort of security. So what the fund will do is just provide security in forms of the off-take guarantee. So it's not that we are stealing from Kenyans as the rumors out there. It's just giving investors that once you're done building a house in Nyamira or in Kitui, that as the government, it will be able to off-take from you. And then after that, now we narrow down to our individual citizens who have been able to contribute and see who are able to contribute. And then later on, there'll be a fund that will be created that will be more of mortgage loans to the Kenyans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you found that it has been difficult to explain this to Kenyans? I mean, you talk about that, obviously, more work could be done in terms of sensitization.
Yeah.
But the little that has been done, has it been easy to explain to Kenyans this very thing that you've just said?
It has not been easy because this thing, I think, was introduced to Kenyans 3 weeks ago. And then also, the people who need to do sensitization are more of the MPs, the members of parliament, the members of county assemblies, who have personal touch with the people. So part of last week but one was to also teach them. Because even them as members of parliament, they never understood well what this housing fund meant.
Okay.
So the PS and his team dwelt in parliament, they were training them, they were guiding them on what to tell the people, what is this housing fund that we're bringing to them. So better part of this week, you will see a lot of MPs going to radio stations, going to TV to sensitize also mashinani level. During weekend, they did that. So during better part of this week will be a lot of sensitization.
Was it for them to understand or for them to know how to vote?
To understand. It's a very complex situation that even most people don't understand. As I said, the fund is more of a pool for security. And then in future, we'll be able now to create more of a mortgage loan to give to Kenyans at a cheaper interest rate than what banks can give you.
When you say it's complex, what is complex about it?
Complexity of things is very relative. To a common mwananchi Wanjiku, whatever I've explained, I need to narrow down to what a language that he understands. Because mostly, the question is, I'm contributing the 3%. Where again am I supposed to come and get mortgage loan from you guys so that I own the house? You're contributing, most Kenyans will contribute maybe 1,000 bob. Yeah. Most will fall on that bracket of 1,000 bob. To now people who are earning above 500 to 2,500. With 1,000 bob, it cannot give you a house in 10 years or maybe in 15 years. Yeah. So what the government is trying to do is now give you something like you'll be able to contribute 15,000, which most Kenyans within the bracket who are contributing 1,000 can afford. After now, we've done the pooling, gotten the houses. Now we can be able to give you at a period of 30 years. Pay slowly, which most Kenyans are paying the 15,000 rent. So now we're transferring it to mortgage.
So the complexity here is just basically what we've even seen.
Yes.
People wondering, if I'm just contributing 1,000 bob, how many years do I need to pay to own this house? Those are the complexities.
Yes.
And to break it down.
Yeah.
Yes, Bona communication specialist.
This matter is not about complexity. It's about taking a big fish and shoving it down the throats of Kenyans. That's a problem. There's nothing complex about turnover tax that is 3% on 500,000 revenue. And anyone who makes money knows that you're charging me 3% for every 1,350 shillings. This is class 6 mathematics. Let's not imagine Kenyans are not wise enough to know it. The problem with this particular issue is not the content of what is being told, it is how it is being sold to Kenyans. For example, the statements yesterday that basically instead of training the MPs, as has been said here, where MPs are being threatened for exercising their independent, constitutional and moral duty to speak out what they honestly believe in, and having the face of the executive threaten them, is exactly what the problem is. The problem here is not lack of explanation. It is that Kenyans are adults who are completely cognizant of what higher taxes mean. They're resistive of it and it's being shoved down their throats. That is the communication problem here. What UDA as a government needs to do is condescend to Kenyans, come back down to our level and reason to us. Telling us mpende msipende is not the way you deal with a Kenyan, not even a 9-year-old Kenyan. There is nothing hard for me to understand that I want a mortgage that's not at 19%. If I can get a mortgage at 4%, I will save millions of shillings on the house I plan to buy. That is obvious. But do not tell me that you're going to tax me, not tax me, because it's not a tax, though it's a tax, and then come back and shove it down my throat. You know, even God says, let us, in fact, to use the theological statement that UDA is in love with because it's a Christian government, even God says, come, let us reason together. So what Kenyans are asking for is let us be reasoned. So for example, I am one of those people who sharply support the affordable housing conversation, and the reason why I support it is not for mortgages, it is not even for house ownership, it is for the bringing down of the costs of rent within our urban areas. It is ridiculous that a Kenyan will spend more than 2/3 of his payment, his salary, to pay for rent. The affordable housing should affect such people. But there are more controversial issues. How are you charging a turnover tax to someone who's earning 1,350, not earning, making 1,350 before they count profit? 1,350 is what Mama Mboga makes. There is no way he or she is going to be able to afford that kind of tax. Those are the kind of issues that are controversial in this thing, and you should not be victimized simply because you have a contrary opinion. This idea that the government, when it has thought it cannot be aided in thinking better by anyone else, is ridiculous. And if that is how they want to go, they should shut down parliament or decide that the parliament is not thinking at all, and then make decisions between State House and Karen.
You know, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm wondering whether at any point what you're contradicting from what Daniel has said.
What I'm contradicting is this.
Daniel has said that there was need to further explain the housing fund and the other bills, okay, and the other parts of the finance bill to the citizens and to legislators, right? Do you argue against any of that?
First, to be informed is important. But the issue is not lack of information. Kenyans are not unable to understand, for example, the turnover tax. They're not unable to understand the increase of tax on fuel from 8% to 16%. No one under the power of my voice is confused as to what 16% means versus 8% on fuel. It is not confusion. The reason we are in this particular predicament is the kind of language that is being used that is condescending to the Kenyan people. It is not lack of knowledge that is the issue here. It is being told, mpende msipende, you give me the power to tax you, and I'll tax you as I please, and I will not listen to the public opinion, and I will make sure I police parliament.
That's what he has extrapolated.
Yes.
Every conversation that he has heard around this, beginning from whoever you want to begin to, then ending with the president, Mark has summarized it in that way. That's how he has come to understand it.
And to quote something that was said yesterday, we are watching carefully to see any parliamentarian who will vote against this issue. Now that I take particular issue with.
Why? You don't want to watch and see?
No, because it was not a threat.
I heard that, and I'm hearing everything else that's coming out of here.
Yeah.
Even without President Ruto saying it, I was waiting to see which MPs vote, how they vote. How they vote and the debate, the quality of debate that members of parliament will have in that house. It's important for all of us to actually see and see whether our MP will just stand up to say tutapitisha hii kitu mpende, or will stand up and argue for it or against it.
You see,
what's wrong with that?
You want to view it from a point of information. Others want to view it from a point of who will we punish. Let's be very clear.
But was there not a follow-up to this, that this thing should be televised so that we should actually forget, apart from hearing and listening to the robust debate, physically you can tell so-and-so voted this way, so-and-so voted this way. There's been talk of let this thing be out in the open.
It will for sure. It will for sure. It will be televised.
But is that not a good thing?
Not on all channels for sure, but it will be televised.
Daniel, what did the president mean yesterday when he said, "I want to see the MPs who will vote against this housing bill"?
You know, as I started this conversation, we said we thought our country is not in a bad state, but we got into a situation where now we understood it's in a bad state. MPs are facing cash issues. We've not been able to give them their full allocation. County is the same. So what the president meant yesterday was, you want roads. We've only given you money for bursaries. You want money to do police stations, to do security and all that, but we have not been able to give you. So he wants to see anyone who will oppose it and then come to him and tell him, Bona Rais, I want some money to build roads. Yet you quash something that will help the national government get more resources to be able to give you money in return. That is in a nutshell what he said.
But you see, the constitutional right to development, to access to healthcare, is not tied in any shape, way, or form on the amount of taxation. Let's be clear. Constitutional rights are not taken or given by the basis of one voting in parliament or two whether you supported a bill or not. It is this kind of thinking that is wrong with this government, that now suddenly we live in a country of shareholders where if you didn't support us, you are less Kenyan than everyone else. That is archaic thinking par excellence. You've scored 100% in that. Listen, an MP can oppose everything in the UK Parliament. It will not affect a single road because the role of the executive is not tied to whether your MP does anything that you like or not. And that is the space of democracy. Listen, this concept that I did not like your finance bill and therefore I should not ask a road is seriously on national television. You woke up today to tell people that? Come on.
No, I mean,
unless we're in North Korea.
I mean, we should not shelve something that is serious, something is of concern, because of a one-day statement from the two officials, our two party leaders. Because I mean, realistically speaking, we need resources. Mark, we need resources. Be it politics, we put it politics, we need resources. We have not been able to pay counties up to date. We have a debt of 2 months. We have not been able to give MPs, not been able to even pay KEMSA in terms of medics. So we need resources. How do we get resources? You know, as it speaks right now, I cannot do things if I don't have money.
Okay, but if that is then the case,
yes,
and the government has known all along, 8 months down the line, that as they keep telling us, they found empty coffers. That's a subject of debate for another occasion. But what prevented this government from ensuring that the discussion about these taxes was held long in advance? What stopped the government? This gun to the head approach where you're being told this thing 3 weeks down the line and it's there and Parliament everything is in a hurry. What prevented the government from allowing the public to debate this thing long before? Because this problem did not require 8 months to know. You need to be in power within a week. You already know what's going on. Not a month, a week. You are very clear.
Yeah.
By the time you finish a month, you know, hapa, exactly.
No, we started that conversation way earlier, even as early as September. But you see,
Started with whom?
with the people, but very subtle. Very subtle.
Wait a
We
moment.
always,
Wait.
You don't remember them telling us we found empty coffers?
Yes, it was very
That
subtle.
conversation started.
It was a very subtle conversation.
No, this government, many of the things that the two leaders were saying, I thought were just being introduced to their brand of humor.
Now you see, the budgeting process does not start in February. It starts way earlier. So we got into power in August. September we sworn in. We are starting the budgeting process. So that's when we realize, okay, we do have money in our coffers. Yet we are making budget for the year 2023-2024. So what do we need to do? Come up with policies that will ensure we raise more money. As a matter of fact, I know the conversation is, why have you increased the budget from 2.9 trillion to 3.6 trillion?
Yes.
A lot of our money is going to recurrent expenditure, which is something that even us as a government right now, we are trying to minimize it, but also we don't have that control. I mean, we have serious, many parastatals that needs to be merged. Those are not things that we can start right now, because it will imply, number one, we need to come up with measures. Those people, the people who are employed in those parastatals. You cannot now come and create another unemployment issue. We need to figure out.
But don't you see what Mark is telling you then begins to lend some weight to the conversation? He's saying how these things are being said. I mean, that the government needs money, that isn't a new conversation. Government always needs money.
Quite true.
That we have a war in Ukraine, which we are being told is affecting everything, we get that.
Yeah.
That we are COVID. We get all these things.
Yeah.
But what policy has this government put in place to ensure that the citizens understand what it is that it encountered when it got into power and what it is it plans to do? Now, a statement to the effect that pesa ilikuwa imeisha, that one you've explained nothing, because as far as nothing, you've told us nothing, because we are thinking, what do you mean? We pay taxes every day. Where does that money go to?
So I mean, you see, also what we got is another shocker that we got is a lot of debt were maturing this year.
No. Wait.
That's the conversation that started.
It's not a shocker. It's not a shocker. So let's take a break. 28 minutes to 8. Time for that break. Mark Bichachi is a communication strategist. Daniel Kibet is the director of data analytics at UDA, the ruling party.
Is this not an appropriate time to ask Daniel, do the people you advise listen to your advice?
Yes, they do.
And how do they demonstrate this listening?
The decision that they make is not. Basically, you see, we are a wing of the party, but also the president, the deputy president, the ministers, they have their own advisors. I mean, we have economic advisors, we have the presidential advisors. So basically, what we do is to help, number one, our party get popular. Number two, ensure our constituents get back to be re-elected and meet their manifesto. Yeah. More of the measures related to economy, budgeting, policy, and all that are more of the presidential advisors and the economic advisor team.
What prevented then UDA from having this extremely important conversation early?
Those are something that we're factoring in. We have been trying to look at election at the US. The manifestos of the US are basically, they're always pegged to numbers. Unlike ours, whereby we try not to peg numbers and not tell people exactly if you're coming in, this is the budget that you should expect, or this is the taxes that you should expect.
But Daniel, if you don't peg numbers, it now becomes voodoo.
No, it doesn't. But you see, problems that Kenyans were facing in 2022 were basically exploitation by the government, by the previous government. So what we've tried to do during campaigns was, number one, to ensure we win. Ensure, number one, we win. And then once you have won, even a kid, when you want him to do something, you first try and bring him home, bring him closer.
You
to listen
entice
to
him.
Yeah, you entice him. Once you've enticed him or her, now you come and tell him, listen, you need to do this and this and this and
Unafunga
this.
yeye unachapa yeye vizuri.
Or these
know-
enticements that you speak of, maybe another person would use a different language and call it a lie.
No, it's not a lie, because everything we said we'll implement the housing fund, we said we'll do affordable housing, we said we'll try and
Universal
do
health
subsidies,
care.
we said we'll do universal health care. So nothing that we said during campaign period were lies.
So why
the only
entice-
thing is
so why
we
entice
never
somebody?
pegged. We
Right.
never pegged the numbers.
So why
Or we never
entice?
said for us to achieve this housing fund, in terms of taxation or in terms of the housing levy, we'll have to implement this.
So why entice is my question, if it can't just be a black and white situation?
I'll go back.
Let's say we're actually going to do this.
To the housing issue because that's the most issue that is being discussed.
Yeah.
I mean, when we got into power, we knew that investors will be able to construct houses without us giving them guarantee. Because I mean, we're giving things that any investor wants. We're giving you free land. We're removing any terms of taxation that we are doing on you. So we thought that most investors will be encouraged to do construction.
Okay.
And then now come and us as the government try and get you
Guys,
off-takers
hold
without doing a guarantee. But now investors came on board and they said, I
Well,
mean,
we don't want here.
we want to construct projects in Kisii, but we are not so sure if Kisii people are able to afford, number one, or can give us immediate offtake of less than 6 months. So you as a government, other than giving us free land and zero taxation, we also want a guarantee in terms of off-taking.
Okay.
You know, this is why I am incensed. Number one, the fact that you were running for an office and you keep saying you didn't know. You keep saying you found empty coffers. You keep saying you found out later that loans were due. Other than enticing people, you are admitting you are entirely unprepared for the role you are going to play. This is like saying I prepared to play a soccer match and I was surprised to find a football on the pitch. It is not only an insult to the intellect of the people listening to us, but it's also a categorical lie. Number one, who does not know that Kenya runs a deficit budget, does not run a surplus? There is no single time in the history of Kenya there is ever been a government, both new or old, that has gone to the treasury and was told, guess what, this month we have 300 billion shillings extra. It has not happened. But at the same time, you tell us you found empty coffers. There is no problem for the highest office in the land to run over budget by more than 1 billion shillings. That's not an issue. Again, you find yourselves lying to Kenyans blatantly that it was not known that investors are unwilling to invest in housing without guarantee. I have read the original documents, which I think you should have socialized yourself with before you got into power. They state the very same thing. It is why voluntarily existed a fund for housing fund that today has a collection of 1.8 billion shillings, one of whom one of the contributors is my wife. And the reason that fund was created was for that very reason, to guarantee the developers uptake. Why I know this as someone who was sent as to the back of the line as a normal Kenyan, and advisors don't know this, is madness. You cannot stand before a republic and say that you are not aware. What do you mean you are not aware? Because the very fact that there was a transition, at the very least, I am sure the XCSs made you aware. This conversation of you are not aware, the coffers were empty, while at the same time you're buying cars on trips every other day, is a blatant lie to the Kenyan people. The day UDA is willing to have honest conversations with Kenyans is the day we will make progress. Stop hiding behind the skirt of Uhuru Kenyatta and he messed up. Guess what? We had Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. He messed up big time. Kibaki did not spend every 2 days reminding us about Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. We are where we are. It is time you guys were truthful and talked to us honestly about the issues. Lastly, please stop this idea of defacing your own economy using your own mouth. Economies are built on confidence. You cannot be a head of state or a deputy head of state talking badly about your economy and expect investors to come. If you say you admit you are unable to raise money, why would I come and buy your bonds and bills? If you are admitting to me you're broke, no wonder our bonds and bills are failing. Look at ever since you took over the stock exchange, how much value have we lost? You know, the proverb you said today is very important. You said, as mistake of the foot, the body pays. A slip of the tongue, and you call it being truthful. It is our economy which is paying. We are paying by gold.
So, Mark,
you need to build investor confidence.
So you want them to tell us the truth?
Yes.
But you don't want them to tell us the truth about the economy?
Because
No,
of the
no.
economy.
Listen, there is a way you tell the truth. It's called wrapping the news in the flag. I'll give them a free course. When Al-Shabaab attacks something, you do not say Kenyan services were totally destroyed, underwhelmed, and things like that. You say the situation was contained in good time. Kenya is becoming safer. It is not a denial. There is a way to shape narratives, and what they are doing is not inspiring confidence. When they speak about the economy in the shape and manner and pattern they do, all the smart money leaves the room. Let me tell you, smart money has exited Kenya. The stock exchange, money has exited. The bonds market, money has exited. The only people who are left in those markets are what we in investments call damn money. That is the issue they need to address. And it cannot be addressed by threatening parliament. You have to sit down, come up with an accurate philosophy, and share information to Kenyans in a way that makes sense.
We know what the president has said. We know what the deputy has said.
Yes.
Bottom line is the finance bill a good bill?
It is for Kenyans, because this is a problem that every president, be it Kibet, be it Uhuru Kenyatta, they didn't want to make the strong and solid decision. Truth be told, we need to sort our slum issues. We can't be having 7 to 10 million people living in deplorable situation, and yet we are saying we want to move to a second world country. That's number one. Number two, we need to understand.
Did you say second world country?
We are trying to move there.
Do you know what first, second, and third world means?
No, that's what we're saying. We're trying to move there. We're already third
Mark,
world.
okay.
We're already third world.
Mark, please let Daniel finish.
No, but
already third
second world means we are becoming a socialist country.
It's okay. Let Daniel continue. Uh-huh.
So we need to, number one, solve that issue. Number two, the bill is not a bad thing, because we are trying to sort our universal healthcare. We're also trying to improve our social security. So by even raising, we should not even argue so much about the housing fund, which is 3%. We are trying to raise money for our social security. Currently, most of our hospitals, be it government, be it private, are refusing NHIF cards.
Yeah.
Why? Most Kenyans have stopped paying.
Why?
The attrition rate is really high right now.
Has the government asked why people are not paying?
Because most institutions, number one, most people during COVID and currently up to date, most lost jobs. So after losing jobs, we didn't grow into that culture of NHIF is something I really require. So we lost a lot of money courtesy of that, to a tune of 20 billion. So what we are trying to do is, number one, increase that fund so that we are able also to pay hospitals.
Okay.
Also, we have a lot of debt to these hospitals as NHIF. So we are trying to increase that. Also, we are trying to improve our social security by improving the whole scheme in how it operates. The fund.
I'm curious. There's the brick and mortar, obviously the numbers and the data and the information that is being dealt.
Yeah.
There's also the more subjective part to all of this, and it's the subjective feeling is built from what people can actually see in front of them. And I'm coming back to these people that everybody starts using back and forth about is as currency to prove their point. Doesn't matter who it is. Everybody keeps talking about the Mwananchi. Is there an understanding? And I'm really, really curious as to, coming from the side of the executive, of the government, Is there an understanding of what Mwananchi are saying, even without a comprehension of these bills?
Yeah.
Where they're coming from and feeling that, you know what, life is a little bit more, not a little bit more, a lot more difficult than it was just 12 calendar months ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about, if we want to give the facts, you know, here we are, we're talking about sugar that has gone up 250 shillings in 9 days.
Yeah.
Not weeks, days. We're talking about not being able to afford food.
Yeah.
These things are what Mwananchi are crying about. For me, they don't even have to understand the bill.
Yeah.
They don't even have to understand the nitty-gritty of the bill.
Yeah.
Is there a feeling, an understanding of what Kenyans are going through and saying, give us a little bit of a break? And in very, layman's terms, that's what government is actually supposed to do. When we want to use the Cambridge English of making an conducive environment, what it is giving people a break.
True.
Is there an understanding of what this same Mwananchi are asking for?
Quite true, there's an understanding. Number one, the bill that even you're discussing currently, nothing has been implemented up to now. You know, there's the budgetary policy statement, now the financial bill, which will be taken to parliament, discussed, amended, then the final budget draft will be taken. Now that's what will be implemented. So the issue of rise in cost of living is not within this financial bill that we're discussing. Number one, like the issue of sugar. We have been in a famine and drought situation for close to a year. It affected the production of most of these commodities, from maize, sugar. The reason why this 9-day period, the cost has gone up is there was an advisory for importers to import sugar, duty-free sugar, to be brought to the market. Most of them were unable to bring them on time. I understand they're on their way coming, the sugar on their way to coming. A lot of metric tons, which if had come on time, because the prices of goods are based on demand and supply. There's the high demand, there's low supply. So eventually, high rise in the cost of living. So what right now we are doing, we talked to the suppliers, to the importers, to be able to fasten the process of bringing these commodities to the market. It's not an issue of we have increased the sugar or transportation cost. That's why the cost has increased by 250 shillings.
But you mustn't, on top of all of this, and this is what I'm trying to get to, on top of all of these things, it doesn't matter if Kenyans get a whiff that a little bit more wants to be taken away from the almost nothing that they have left. That is where the problem lies.
We agree. We understand. We are not dumb, or we are lying to ourselves saying Kenyans are suffering. Even you and I, even if I was able to afford a 3,000 meal a day, right now I try and squeeze myself afford a 2,500. That's a reduction in lifestyle. That's a reduction in spending. And not everyone feels comfortable in something in my life has been deducted. So we're also feeling it, even as much as in government, also feeling it. So we are not lying to ourselves that the current situation, even for a common Mwananchi, is not bad. But also we are torn between, do we continue in the same situation and lie to ourselves and do nothing as the government? Or do we come up with measures that will be able to curb such situation in the
from
near
happening
future?
again? Okay.
You're getting? Because
get
we're in this situation, yes, we're in this problem right now. But do you want us to stay in that position for the next 5 years? Or we saw this problem right now, come up with measures that will never have this situation again, ever happening again?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I am really curious because I've had this statement that somehow this heightened taxation is a cure-all for these issues. Now, the little I know about economics is once prices go up, they rarely go down. Okay? Second, in an inflationary market as we are in now, if you increase taxes, then those prices of things logically go up as well. If you add, for example, 8% tax on fuel, then that sugar is not going to come to Kenya any cheaper. Two, part of
it may arrive cheaper, but it's not going to be sold cheaper.
Yeah. Two is when you're talking about a dollar that is approaching 140,
50,
and going to 150 and past. The cost of the Kenya shilling exchange rate to buy that same sugar is also going to go up. The only issue that raising taxes seeks to address is more revenue for government. It does not speak at all to the cost of living. In fact, it guarantees an increased cost of living. So in terms of cost of living, this budget does not say in any sense that things will be better. But beyond that, I am also quite curious that do we not consider the very real economic reality that the more you tax people, the less money they have to spend, and the less money they have to spend, the less taxes you generally tend to get? I don't know whether this cure-all, this panacea of issues, because when Du is asking about the cost of living and taxation is the answer to solving these problems, it is factually, functionally untrue. You cannot reduce the cost of living by taxing more. Which math is that?
Mark. Show me a government in this country in the last 25 years
Yes.
that has reduced taxation.
No, it's impossible.
Okay.
Is it?
So you're saying
No, it's
show,
of the
it's
last
impossible to
it's
show.
impossible to show that in the last 20 years.
Okay.
and any government that would have come into office and running its first budget today
Yes.
would have been raising taxes.
My issue is not raising taxes.
Whether it was Wahiga Mwaure's government or Wajakoya's government or Raila Odinga's
Bwana-
government or this one of William
Bwana
Ruto.
Latif, here's my issue.
Uh-huh.
My issue is not the raising of taxes. It is saying the raising of taxes in answer to Ndu's question about sugar going up to 250 shillings was that the finance bill is going to sort it out. What I'm
Not
simply
really.
indicating is that the finance bill cannot and will not reduce the cost of living because none of the items there are aimed at doing so. Instead, it will create an extra inflationary cycle where the spending of the Kenyan will actually go down, and as Mudavadi accurately said, it will be painful. Where he is inaccurate is that it will be painful for 3 years. No,
How
it
long
will
do
be
you think it
painful
will be
for a while. No, because the price is not going to go down.
It will for sure. I didn't say number
price
one,
of
you
fuel
quoted
will
me
go.
wrongly. I never said the finance bill will sort the issue of the sugar prices. Number one, I said the reason why sugar prices are high right now is we have limited supply. Reason being, most importers were unable to bring sugars to the market on time. So currently, the government has already approached them. They guaranteed by the 2 weeks' time, all sugars will be on board. I mean, it's very... In 9 days, you cannot have a price of sugar go by 250 because of taxes. It's because of supply. If there's limited supply in the market,
Daniel,
Yes.
you know these things that we are discussing here,
yeah,
we can discuss it, but it's up in the air. The Mwananchi doesn't care, really.
so it's a matter of us government telling them the truth.
It's a matter of government explaining itself.
Yes, because it's not about taxes. It's,
No.
it's a matter of the supply.
No.
We are coming to the top of the hour.
I have to ask one question.
There is no
Does
time
the
to answer the
government think
question.
it is important to rally people behind their cause or to tell them what you're calling is the truth?
We also have to gauge ourselves on what we say because of confidence. I agree on that because of confidence issues. But at the same time, let's also not misguide people because taxes, nothing in the finance bill has been implemented up to date.
But it will be if it passes.
It will, but it will not be punitive as is implied.
Daniel, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Daniel Kibet is the Director of Data Analytics at UDA. Mark Bichachi is a communication strategist. Yeah, and he's also been at the Capital Markets Authority. He's telling us about markets and how they've behaved. He has questions to answer as well, but next time.
Spice.